Hello and welcome to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard. Thank you so much for joining us for another segment. We'll be speaking with Dr. David Stein in this segment, Director of Babson Diagnostics, also the CEO of Babson Diagnostics. He's joining us to talk about how Babson is reimagining the blood testing process by only using a pea-sized amount of blood collected from the finger. Welcome to Health Professional Radio, Dr. David Stein. Thank you so much.
Neil, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you today.
Give us a brief look into your professional background and tell us exactly what Babson Diagnostics is involved in.
Sure. Healthcare has been a passion of mine for a number of years. Had grandparents that weren't always the healthiest, and growing up in New York in the late 80s, you needed a strong advocate if you were in the hospital, and I was that for them. Wanted to be a clinician, but couldn't separate from patients, so have focused my career on the intersection of med tech and innovation. Have really had been given a lot of great opportunities over the years, and over the past few years have been focused on Babson Diagnostics, a company that Eric Olson, the founder, and myself started both when we were back at Siemens and have continued to foster since. Babson Diagnostics is really focused on bringing accessibility and convenience and a true alternative for blood testing. So how can we bring a much friendlier, a much more human, and a much easier experience for broad diagnostic blood testing, but without making a sacrifice of menu breadth, quality, cost structure, other things that are also important to the healthcare system. So that's what we've been focused on for the last several years with our partners Siemens and Becton Dickinson. And we're excited that we're steadily marching towards bringing it to commercial launch and bringing the benefits of Babson to people like ourselves on the phone.
Tell us a bit about some of the problems associated with blood testing right now.
Diagnostic blood testing largely hasn't changed since the late 40s. And that's when the vacutainer was invented at Becton Dickinson by Joseph Kleiner. Until today, there hasn't been a way of doing broad testing without getting a sufficient volume of blood that you get typically through venipuncture, through sticking a needle in your arm. We've all evolved over the last millions of years to not want sharp things to go into soft parts of our body. So for a lot of people, actually a significant part of the population, they have either physiological reactions like vasovagal reaction, or they have difficult veins. And Becton Dickinson themselves talk about over 50% of people have difficult veins. So the first problem is, can you look at an alternative when it comes to blood collection that doesn't need venipuncture, doesn't need a needle going into your vein? Second part of it is, how do you then take whatever sample you collect and make sure that you can truly do broad panels? Because the key thing here is, how do you collect enough information from the blood you collect so that you can truly get a picture of the person's biology by running the standard panels of tests such as complete blood count and comprehensive metabolic panel and lipids that we've all heard, so that clinicians get a complete picture and not just a partial picture. So what we have done is really reimagined the end-to-end blood testing ecosystem, from blood collection, where we've partnered with Becton Dickinson and combined our technology and IP together, which enables you to take a high-quality sample from a person's finger, combine that with end-to-end Babson technology and equipment that then fully automates the process of mixing the tube, centrifuging the tube, refrigerating it, and at the same time enabling somebody that's not a phlebotomist to do the collection and to do the things you usually don't see when somebody does a collection step, such as connecting you to the tube and making sure the orders are correct. We automate all that process. And then we couple that with a highly automated microsample lab, possibly the most sophisticated and the largest microsample in the lab, our first one being in Austin, Texas, where we then process those samples and result large panels of the most frequently ordered tests so that either you or your clinician get that full picture of your biology.
This small amount of blood can be analyzed for the wide range of disorders that we normally use 3 and 4 vials of blood for. Is this something that is going to be replacing the procedures in healthcare facilities, hospitals, nursing homes?
Our first goal is, what is the most accessible and convenient locations for doing transactional healthcare? So we've seen that, vaccines have largely been adopted at retail pharmacies. We saw during COVID that retail pharmacies became the preferred location for doing testing. So that is our initial focus, is that you'd be able to quickly get your blood collected at one of our retail pharmacy partners, and then within, next day or the day after, you get your results. So really coupling the best of decentralized collection at those locations with centralized process for centralized processing of that sample to get broad results and high quality. That doesn't preclude that in the future we're going to go to other settings, like you said, doctor's offices. Definitely long-term skilled nursing is in need. But those are ands to our first, which is look at where people are going for their front door to healthcare, or where they're going for a lot of the transactional healthcare, which is the retail pharmacy.
When you were talking about people having bad veins, not wanting sharp things going to the soft parts of their bodies, when we're talking about these finger pricks, walk us through the collection process, please.
So with our partners, we've developed a next generation collection device that collects blood from a person's finger, collects a pea-sized volume of very high quality blood. And what's great is it can be done in almost any location and facilitated by just somebody we train, a trained healthcare worker, not by a phlebotomist or pharmacist, which really unlocks these decentralized locations. What's also been exciting is we've done extensive customer preference studies, and it's amazing to see how people prefer this approach to venipuncture, how for the large number of people that have difficult veins, that this finally gives them a true alternative, and one that it reduces a lot of the fear when it comes to blood collection and to getting their broad blood testing done.
Tell us when you anticipate wide-scale commercialization of this system, and give us a website where we can learn more.
We're in a highly regulated industry, and we're doing things the right way, so I'm not going to give you an exact date. We're in our final stages of regulatory approvals, so we're working on that between us and our partners. We're pushing as hard as we can to launch as soon as we can, but we want to do it the right way. And I think that's key, is that we've taken a very science-first approach. I think it's public knowledge that we've had over 30 clinical studies, over 3,000 subjects, over 700,000 tests, and we'll continue to march that. But we will not sacrifice having the required necessary regulatory approvals in place. Our website is babsondx.com, so BABSONDX.com. And we're just excited about not only the benefits we will bring to people like me and you on this phone when it comes to patients, giving them a true alternative, but also solving some of the pressing needs that clinicians have when it comes to compliance, when it comes to patients getting tested, and when it comes to really getting that full picture of a person's biology so they can treat them and they can prevent disease.
David, I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much for joining us here on Health Professional Radio. Hopefully you'll return as the commercialization process continues and we get some more information on Babson's blood testing. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Neil.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with Dr. David Stein. Audio copies of this program are available at healthprofessionalradio.com.au, also at Anchor, Spotify, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com, Health Professional Radio.